the the recap. Again, I apologize if I'm a little bizarre. Okay, folks. So yesterday was the 14th day. 14th straight day, I should say. The day of the 14th. 2 weeks since Elizabeth City began protesting over the police massacre, execution, however you want to refer to it, of Andrew Brown Jr. And so I arrive on the scene at the Confederate War Memorial, which again has been voted down. It's been voted to be removed a while ago. It was supposed to be removed like sometime this month, but that has so far not transpired. So either way, that's where I arrive on the scene. We have some information on the arrestings of last night. Now there were 4 arrests. Not last night, but the day 13 arrests. There were 4 arrests. I counted 3 at the time, but there were 4 total. And so we got some info here, including this individual in the red.
The magic for yesterday was impeding traffic, which is a simple citation. That's all that should have been given was a citation, a ticket.
It's a payable
ticket. Pay the fine. But once again, they want to make a point, but the point is not well taken because we're right back out here today. Everybody was arrested except a young lady that had to go back to Durham. She had to go back to Durham.
I just want to remind everyone they specifically targeted people that they perceived as leaders. They went after someone because they had a megaphone. They went after him because he does like organizing in the area. They just went after people that they perceived as like being problems. And they're trying to like disband the group by attacking key members of it, at least in their perception. So I want to be very clear about that. Everyone's out, but to my understanding, they do have to pay fines for whatever reason. Again, how can you impede traffic when there's cops on both ends of you? It doesn't really hold up too well, right? But we'll see how that plays out. So we start marching. We go to the Confederate War Memorial once again, which I am liking the motif of keeping everyone aware of the fact that this thing was voted to be removed, yet is still here. Also, it's important to note that this was erected by the Daughters of the Confederacy in their early 1900s propaganda campaign called the Lost Cause, where they're trying to say that, the Confederacy was, they had a few bad apples, but they were mostly good, and they mostly fought the war over states' rights or some shit. Right, so that's what this whole thing is about. So then we start marching downtown, and that's pretty good. I love marching downtown because the roads are thin enough where you can get a decent chunk, like you can occupy the whole road, because the roads are thin enough. But like also it's downtown, so you got a bunch of people looking out of like windows. You got people looking at you, and that kind of stuff. So we start on the main road once again, and they again. I want to remind everyone this is just about 24 hours after they arrested people the day before. And so, we don't know, are people going to get arrested today? What's going to happen? But people aren't scared. I'm in the front of the crowd at this point, so that's why you can see no one behind me. So we are once again on the major road. Now, the morning of, I want to be very clear, the morning of this protest, they had rescinded and changed the permit that was approved. It was approved, retracted, changed, and approved again. And they said that we have to have one side of the road open for traffic. Now, I want to be very clear that we've already had people in vehicles try to attack us. That actually happened later this day as well. We had someone in a vehicle try to attack us. And so this is just like a really bad idea. But people are like, you know what? We're not going to fight it today. And we're going to, just see how it goes. Now, personally, again, it's a really bad idea. You have people screaming racial slurs out their window. It's a huge problem. But cops don't really care about that. And so we keep going. At this point, the weather starts to get a little bit interesting. It gets a little bit interesting. It starts to rain. Drizzle. It starts to drizzle around this point. And then it get that last night the weather was crazy. So it started drizzling and I'm like, okay, good, because it's hot. It's hot as fuck. Right? I'm sweating, I'm gonna die. In fact, I'm already dead. And so it starts drizzling, and I'm like, oh, sweet salvation. And so then it gets really windy, and I almost lose my hat. Like, my hat, like, no joke, flies off of my head almost. Like, you know, it lifts into the point where it's no longer on my head, and I grab it. And then I put it in my backpack, and like, it gets really fucking windy around this section here. Like, it's just so goddamn windy. You can see, like, the bushes and the trees and everything. It's just like, Lord have motherfucking mercy. And so around this point, when it started storming, it was also raining again, like, even heavier. The officer, who I believe is the lieutenant who's escorting us here, gets out of the car and says, if anyone needs a ride home, let me know. And then everyone just starts chanting fuck 12 as the cop is still there, like, asking if people need a ride. I just, like, how are you going to arrest people the day before illegally, and then the next day come out here and be like, does anyone need a ride? And then everyone, like, was unanimously like, no, bitch, get the fuck out of our way. And so that was, like, really amazing. Because, like, again, you can't, like, they're trying to do that PR shit. They're trying to be like, oh, there's a storm and the cops rode a protester home. Like, they're not doing that shit. That's not happening. We're not doing that. Right? So the cop comes out. Everyone just starts chanting fuck 12. And then they just, like, awkwardly get back in the car and run away. And again, this is the same cop that we had an interaction with later as well. And so now it's raining really hard. And we're coming up on the end of the protest. We normally disband around 8:30ish. Just because it's dark and gives people the opportunity to go home. It also is like people can continue protesting after 8:30, but it's like, you know, it was raining. And so we were out here for like, you know, 3 hours, and it was like, okay, we made our point. You know, we got a good walk in, right? But then we have this interaction here where some dude is like revving up his engine. And then like this guy is, I just want to say, like, this guy is drunk. Like, I could smell the alcohol from this guy's breath. I thought this guy was grabbing a gun at that point. But no, he gets a camera thing, so I can't see his face. But I already saw his face, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, so this guy like drives up to us, makes a loud... There's the fucking lieutenant, by the way. This guy drives up to us, makes a loud noise, calls us cunts. And then, like, you know, starts screaming like a bunch of like slurs. And when I say slurs, I mean both in like the drunken way, as in like I can't understand what you're saying, and like slurs as in like the offensive language kind of standpoint. Now I want to remind everyone that this person in cohort, in concert with the mayor and the police chief and all that, came up with a reason to arrest people. Came up with a reason to arrest people 24 hours prior to this. For impeding traffic. Yeah, this guy being on the main, like, public safety road, right, drunk. Again, I just want to remind everyone, both of these people have no masks on, and this guy is drunk. Like, I was at a point where I was really close to him, and you'll see that in the video in a second here. This is where I got a really good look at him. But he's just drunk as fuck. And he's like, he looks like a fucking, like, I don't even know what's going on here. So, okay, so we start shouting, like, you know, arrest him, do your fucking job. Because, like, again... 4 people got arrested because they were walking too slow yesterday. Not yesterday, the day before yesterday, on the protest day before yesterday. This very cop arrested 4 people because they were walking too slow, and they got a ticket for impeding traffic. Whereas this guy can get drunk, right? Call like protesters slurs, right? Like, and then like wobble around and like try to like fucking like, you know, shine lights in people's faces, park the car. That's fine. That's fine. And so we all just like basically follow this cop here, just yell at him, as he deserves to be yelled at. And then so he goes back in his car, and then he leaves. And then I post the video online. And then I get drunk, and then I go home. And that's basically the end of the day. Now, I just want to say we got this guy's name and info. People, like, immediately as soon as I started posting the videos, someone was like, oh yeah, I know that guy. And so we know who this is. So, like, it's all good, man. But, like, Lord have motherfucking mercy. And again, I want to say this, like, for propaganda purposes, like, when you look at, like, the day before yesterday and see people getting arrested for impeding traffic because they were walking too slow with a permit to walk, they were just walking too slow, right? You have a permit to walk, but I dictate what speed you're allowed to walk at, right? So they were walking too slow, 4 people arrested. This guy drunk driving, barely able to, like, you know, drive on the road correctly, harassing people, all of a sudden there is no there is no such thing as impeding traffic. It's over. It doesn't exist anymore. And so like that was just such a bizarre interaction. But again, I just want to like, this is how the cops act in Elizabeth City. They arrest protesters illegally. They threaten to arrest members of media. They threaten to arrest the press illegally. And then they do this kind of shit where they just let drunken white people who are just harassing a group of women just go. Even though they're drunk, even though you can smell that he's drunk, right? Even though like he's clearly a violent aggressor. And he's like, again, on top of it all, impeding traffic because there's like people like driving cars behind him. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. And so again, I need people to understand that there is no such thing as a good cop. There will never be such a thing as a good cop. Your brother's not a good cop. Your uncle's not a good cop. Your father's not a good cop. They're garbage. They're just as bad as this guy. They're just as bad as all the other cops. They're shit. And you need to understand that. Because when cops make their decisions, they don't make their decisions based on, what do my civilian what would my civilian mother think about this decision I'm going to make? They make their decisions based off, what are my brothers in blue going to think if I do this? Right? So that's why this guy didn't arrest someone for drunk driving and impeding traffic, because the rest of the guys on this motherfucking police force are racist motherfuckers, right? And so this guy's role is to just be like the corraller, the herder of racist motherfuckers, right? That's this guy's role. The lieutenant and the police chief combined, they serve the purpose of just like fucking being anti-protest, like pro-counter-protests, pro-sheriff's department, which by the way, I would love to remind people, committed murder 2 weeks ago, right? And so it's like just a huge fucking problem that we've got going on here with the police in Elizabeth City. And so like I really just wanted to like spend that moment to talk about just the sheer hypocrisy, the way that like they treat protesters versus drunk drivers. And I got it all on video, right? So it's just like, it's clear as day. You're arrested for walking too slow with a permit to walk. That's fine. Drunk driving, drunk driving, or rather, that's not fine. Rather, I should say. And then drunk driving, all of a sudden, I drunk drive all the time. In fact, I'm drunk driving right now. Everyone, let's get drunk and drive home, right? As far as the cops are concerned. And it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous that this is the world that we live in. And like, again, they couldn't make it any more clear. And again, that's why I'm attending all of these protests, so that I can get this kind of like, so that y'all can see like what the fuck we're dealing with here, right? That's why I've been here every single day, because if you skip a day, if you miss a beat, right, you're gonna miss these interactions where like you just see the blatant hypocrisy, you see the blatant corruption, you just see all of it on display just so clearly and magnificently, right? And so again, who knows what's going to happen today? We're already planning protests for today, so things might get more like hectic. They might get less hectic. We'll see. But either way, things are not on a good trajectory. Things are only getting more and more annoying, to say the least, and more reckless, to say the least. And we'll see how the police behave today. We'll see how many people are arrested for protesting their government. And let's see how many, like, again, I also want to keep in mind, we have a military occupation of police. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of police cars, upwards of 350 miles away, are bussed in outside agitators. We've got mobile RV command units. We've got every sheriff's department in the entirety of North Carolina. We've got like state troopers out the wazoo. It's crazy. It's motherfucking crazy, right? All for a group of like 40 or 50 consistent, like everyday protesters. These motherfuckers are just going crazy. And so, it's a huge fucking problem. And yeah, so is anyone doing raw live streams? You're going to have to go to Facebook and look at Facebook Lives. Really, the only people that are streaming like unedited, like full protest coverage are people in the crowd protesting. So just like look for Elizabeth City like Facebook Lives. That's the only thing I can recommend. But either way, that's what happened on the 14th day of our protests for Andrew Brown. Again, that's 2 weeks that we've been at this every single day, and we're not going to stop. Today is going to be day 15, and we're just going to keep going. We're going to pick up right where we left off, and we're going to make our voices heard, and so that's the idea of what we're doing here. So my voice is like, it's a disaster. I was screaming. I've been screaming for the last 2 weeks, right? I feel like my vocal cords are never going to be the same again. Like I'm going to be like, in like 3 months from now, this is just going to be like the new way that I sound, like forever, and it's just going to be like, okay, I can reckon with that, You know what I mean? But like as of this current moment in time, this is not normally how I sound, right? So I'm just saying, I scream a lot. I'm a screamer, right? When I'm at protests, I like being loud. I like getting, I love, because a lot of people can't scream that well. A lot of people don't like screaming. So it's like, I'll scream. I could scream, right? Whatever. And so that's the kind of situation we're dealing with. But anyway, that is the recap. Does anyone have any questions?